rise. We'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have some public comments?
Levy? All right, can you hold on a second? We need an official timer. Who would like to time for 3 minutes?
So 3 minutes.
Who wants to set a timer? I
Go
can.
for it.
Okay. We still have to set a timer.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay.
At the last budget meeting that you guys had, a statement was made, and I'd just like to get clarification. Somebody was talking about reducing the amount of teachers, and what would that cost? Or what savings would that bring us? And I think Elisa and Tyler talked about the fact it wouldn't make much of a difference because the state pays for most of the teacher's salary. I don't know if you guys mentioned benefits or not, but when you're carrying 7.5 extra, and I don't want to necessarily clarify them as extra teachers, but more teachers than the state allows or will pay for, 7.5 teachers' salaries is close to $500,000. And that's not just a little bit, that's a lot. And so any teachers after that, yes, it becomes somewhat of a wash because the state pays a major portion. I just wanted to clarify that. Am I wrong in what I'm saying?
Do you mind answering that?
I absolutely will. Yes, they pay benefits and the insurance and those benefits and the salary. So the answer to that question, yes, when the state pays for a teacher, they pay for the salary and they pay for the benefits. On my presentation tonight, I'm not sure, off the top of my head, I'm not sure about the 7 over what the state pays, but I have that here in my presentation, and when we get to that, you're correct. The portion that is not paid for by the state would be a savings.
Yes. The other thing is, I would also like to encourage all of you to really think about educating the communities on the levy and really think about getting some real time and real dollar amounts over the next few months over what Christie is actually going to do and what Grangeville is actually going to do as far as staff goes, as the district deconsolidates, because if you're trying to run a levy now, it's all up in the air yet, and I just don't think it's fair to the patrons. I think if you educate the patrons, that they will stand behind you.
Sue, General.
What's up? Can you hear me? That's a very loud voice. Oh. Yes. Just for you.
Thank you.
Okay. And now can you all hear me? And somebody just came in the door already.
While we wait, Sue Phillips was recognized as Mountain View School District's Volunteer of the Year this year.
Well, you just took my introduction.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I moved here to go work for the Postal District in 1973. I can remember because it's my husband's birthday and I didn't even know he was putting my husband in this. And I volunteered in some capacity at the school ever since. This school makes the money. know enough about what's mandated, required in the schools, and why it costs so much. I just think that I agree with you 100%, but I just want people to really think when you're thinking about voting for money to help our school and keep our school here in our city. Just remember, if we don't have a school here, what it's going to do to us. And I have one more thought. But anyway, thank you all for coming. And just think about our kids, please.
Mike, levy general? Mike?
So, one first question is, how much time has the Clearwater Valley Board had to discuss future needs?
Would like to answer that?
I didn't,
Just as you as a board amongst your 5 individuals, have you had much opportunity to discuss the needs you envision will be required?
no,
That was a no,
no.
0.
You've had 2 meetings.
We did 2 meetings, and the superintendent did present the breakdown of estimated costs for each district going forward based on past costs. But we still have a lot of stuff to figure out. The new superintendents.
So do you feel like we had adequate opportunity to be able to really make decisions at this point? Financial decisions?
We have a good rough estimate, but until we actually go through every little detail, we won't have a fixed number. And right now, a good estimate is the best we can do.
Okay, I'm just anticipating that Clearwater is going to have some similar issues to deal with as Grangeville does, but there's going to be some that are specific to Clearwater and some specific to Grangeville. Theoretically, you guys would want to be talking about those and outlining it, but in my hearing, you really don't have a specific, clear picture of that.
We've got a lot to get our arms around.
So which leads into my second question is, how can either board have a clear grasp on needs at this point in order to run a levy? Certainly, there are a lot of issues, but I follow that with that I recently heard that a current school account that was anticipated to have $100,000 carryover or some amount along those lines currently has $900,000 in it. Can anybody speak to that?
There's not been an $800,000 money fine. I'd be jumping jacks and turning cartwheels.
So that's just all hocus pocus.
I
There
think
is a line item in the budget that shows 900,000, and I think
we do have a $900,000 account with $900,000 in it, yes, but that wasn't a found money, and that is money that the auditors, every year when they audit us, they require you to keep a budget, that was a misuse of a word budget. They require us to have a cushion of money because in the state of Idaho, each year money is sent out in quarters throughout the year. They give you an estimated amount in August and then another chunk later in the year, throughout the year. And sometimes there are holdbacks. Sometimes, like what happened earlier this year, the federal government held money back and then the state had to hold money back. And so you have to have money to meet your bills during that month. So that $900,000 is there as that cushion that we have to maintain. That would be divided 28%, 72% on the
So I want to make sure
district.
I understand what you're saying
Okay, it's
in addressing this.
What-
Is that resolved?
We have one, your time's up, but finish your thought, okay?
No, I'm just wanting some clarification to ensure that this is not some money that maybe was
So, no, there was no found money or missed money on the last levy, since the last levy. There are 2 election dates for levies in Idaho, one of them being November and one of them being May.
So there is opportunity to run a levy,
Yes,
yes, in the springtime.
In May. Yep.
After there's maybe been more opportunity to refine and define what the needs are.
Just, if I
We
may,
can.
to help fill out that picture, it isn't though the case that if we run a levy and it passes in November, that we cannot run a levy in May for more money. That's it. Right? Now, if the levy in November fails, then we can run the May levy.
The reason the November one is enticing.
That's what I'm make sure I understand.
Is if it does fail, you have a second opportunity.
opportunity,
If it's just run in May and it fails, you have no second chance. That's what we're dealing with here.
But you can't double up and run one.
And
in
time's
November
up,
and-
sorry, but that's,
I'm just, from what I've heard or what I sense early.
we gotta move on here, but thank you. We'll try to keep, kind of answer those as we go.
So I'm out of time.
Yes, thank you. All right, moving on to consent agenda. Looked over those, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I motion to approve the consent agenda as reflected in section C of our agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on. Business. We get the reports. Sorry, guys. Reports. Superintendent report.
okay, as I did last year, I plan to go over my goals and the progress towards those goals each month. And so one of my goals that I shared last month is that I plan to execute the deconsolidation process, creating 2 strong and unique new districts. Some things that we have worked on, last month I realized that the new trustees didn't get a copy of the deconsolidation timeline. That's in your packet this month, you saw that, and we're continuing to work on that deconsolidation timeline. Also, in the past month, the Board of Trustees saw the 1000 series from the board policies. We have to have board policies for both of the 2 new districts, so I'm trying to make that into bite-sized chunks. And so the board has looked at the 1000 series, and we'll make motions about those later in tonight's meeting. I have developed a proposed staffing plan for both new districts that we will talk about shortly. I will tell you that that's a very difficult thing in a small district, because when you say something like technology director, it's pretty easy to figure out who that is. And so it's a slippery slope, because I have to be careful about honoring people's privacy as well as staying transparent. So I'm trying to dance down that tightrope, so I do have a staffing plan that I will share tonight. And then tons of levy research. I have so many spreadsheets and have gone through those spreadsheets, and I'm running them past different people that I know to try to get there. So that's what I've been working on at this point. My second goal is to find avenues to improve patron relationships and increase transparency. One of those things that we have created is a superintendent committee called the Steering Committee. In Idaho, we have numerous policies that are required to be reviewed by parents and staff yearly. An example of that is our food service policies, our Title I plans, our homelessness plan, our transportation plans, and our continuous improvement plan. So our steering committee, superintendent's committee, met already last week, and we have gone through and we've met our requirement for reviewing the transportation plans, and we also have a continuous improvement plan, which is an item that I will be passing out and we will be looking at later tonight. And then also, interestingly, through a public records request, I had another great idea about trying to increase transparency, and we had a public records request for the documents that the board gets every month. This is the printed copy. So someone said, hey, can we get the documents that the board gets every month? And I was like, it was like rocket science to me. And I said, absolutely, do you know what we need to do? We need to post those online. And so on our district's website where we have the minutes and the agenda and the recordings, we will also place these documents so that patrons can look at those to try to increase
Good
transparency.
idea, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why that didn't dawn on me earlier, but I was like,
Yeah.
anyway, so that is where we're working towards transparency. That will have a little bit, just like the minutes and the agenda and the financials have a little bit of a delay. I have a whole new stack for the board tonight because I haven't killed them with paper yet. So this will take, like, after tonight's meeting, this will have to be scanned and included in it to upload it. So I'm gonna guess 5 days, within 5 days of a board meeting, we'll have that posted. So that's my second goal. The third goal is to build pride in our schools, and on Monday, we had our back-to-school meeting with all of our staff, and that started with a welcome back address from me, and then longevity awards, where we recognized people who had been in the district for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 25, 30, and 35 years, which was amazing, because those are the foundation of our district, those people who are here every year and continue to support the district. So we did those awards, also recognized our first volunteer of the year. I hope that's an award that they continue on in the future with. And then we had a series of workshops for the teachers, for the staff to attend. And we did a survey after the workshops. And I'll just give you a few of the highlights of some of these. Mr. Stevens, for instance, taught about BRISC, which is a program that teachers can use to identify when students are inappropriately using artificial intelligence, and it measures keystroke. So you know if they copy and paste it instead of actually type something. So it's a very robust program to help teachers combat the improper use of artificial intelligence. We had a de-escalation by Mrs. Howe. Mrs. Fales taught about the new IRI, it's the reading test that they give to kindergarten through 3rd grade. It's a new platform this year. She taught about that. De-escalation. I taught a lesson about how teachers can use AI, and we talked a lot about it's a tool, and if we use it ethically, it's like using a wrench to take a bolt loose, to loosen a bolt. If we use it unethically, it's like how they use a wrench in the game of Clue, and that's not such a good thing. And so we talked about using it as a tool, and then when teachers model and use AI appropriately, then that helps students not use it in a manner that's inappropriate for their use. We had Skyward workshops. The principals presented IPLPs. Every Idaho code requires teachers to do an Idaho professional learning, individualized professional learning plan. So they taught that, a variety of things. Professional code of ethics, every employee attended that. Ready Sub. So we had this huge matrix of different workshops that were available, and then teachers were allowed to, all the staff were allowed to pick and choose the ones that applied to them in their role. And then we followed that with a survey of the staff saying, did this work? How was this? Did you like it? Did it meet your needs? And so far the results have been very, very favorable. So that brings pride in our job and that we're learning and working together. And then finally, there was an article this week in Idaho Education News. I don't know if you got it. It was shared by Daily News and was picked up by a few other onlines, but it recognized 2 graduates of Clearwater Valley High School, one of them being Martha Smith, who was the ASB president at the University of Idaho last year, and the other one, I want to say Jade. Was her first name Jade? Rain. Martinez, who was the president of Lewis Clark State College last year. To have that quality of graduate of Clearwater Valley High School, that speaks a lot. That's phenomenal. And so Idaho Education News interviewed both of those young ladies and had a fabulous article. I'm so proud of those girls. And it's been picked up by other online news stations, so that was awesome. Staff recognition. This month I'd like to recognize the staff that volunteered their time to prepare and instruct those workshops on Monday. That was extra time that they came in over the summertime on their time to present that, so that their first day back on contract, they could be ready to teach their fellow staff members. That's my superintendent report.
Great. Mr. Chairman, question?
Yeah.
Madam Superintendent, with respect to your second goal, back actually same year that our board clerk joined us, the district frankly, in my request, started producing what Carly, previous, so I apologize for slopping over here, the previous comptroller labeled a Q&A, which had some just boiled down statistics of ratios and things like that. That kind of just faded away the last couple of months. Are we going to be bringing that back? I've had people
We
ask.
will, we're pretty early in the year for a Q&A, but Connie is going to be working on that and
Okay,
sharing.
that's great.
Carly told me that one way, but I can.
I think we'll have
Please
it come
do.
back. I don't know that we'll do it monthly.
She did it monthly. It showed up. It showed up with the board packet.
I think we might shoot for quarterly, or maybe every other month.
Whatever gets it done.
Yeah, there's just not a ton of change in it every month, and so it might be more timely to do it
Sure,
quarterly.
it's just
or
it's a great, what I'll call demographic snapshot of the district.
Absolutely, and it's always, and because we are going to share our board packets, it'll always be available.
Super.
Moving on to financial report, Connie?
There's not a lot, I'm just gonna review the budget because I don't have a lot going on right now. Sorry.
Let me rephrase that. She has a lot going
I have
on.
a
It's
lot
early in the year. We haven't spent a lot of money because school hasn't quite started.
Not much newsworthy.
Regarding the comments that have been made so far, I think what they're concerned about is about levies and information regarding other things. It looks like they're going into that, so you mentioned about the line item budgets being developed for each of the districts.
For each of the districts?
This is point of order, this is out of your agenda.
Okay. We can't interact at all?
No, because you're following the agenda, so he can't be acting while we're reading it.
Okay, we'll do the report, but then we'll try to address your questions if you have later on. We're trying to create more discussion, but we also need to follow this, so.
Okay, so I just want column F as locally funded, like I said, other local rent, or, interest on investments, levies, property tax replacement. One thing I did want to tell you is that the state does have a property tax break, and so they do give us money, and we use that money in lieu of levy money. Like, it reduces the amount of money we would use for levy. I don't have that amount in front of me, but I did want to make that point. So this is what he was talking, the projected balance brought forward. This is like our cushion. And then, this amount right here is federally funded. Oops, sorry. This revenue is like state discretionary funding, and then this is locally funded, money, like levy and that kind of thing. And then that was our revenue, and this is our expenditures. Sorry, I have a little screen here. Sorry. Okay. Again, this is, state or federal funding, or not funding, I'm sorry, expenditures. Oh, did I? Yeah. And then state discretionary, and then local, and that's not coming out. Am I saying that right? Yeah. These are our expenditures. And that's how much it takes for the year.
And just to mention again on that little buffer that we had, as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we had, before the last levy, we had used all that up. So we were running like almost on zero instead of 700,000 or whatever that was. And so that was restored during the last levy. But anyway.
Regarding terminology, would that be considered a detailed line item budget? And are you working towards having that for each of the districts after?
So
Yes, yes.
Yes.
This is pretty,
We won't,
Is there a deadline or a goal of target date to have those detailed line item budgets for the split complete and available?
can I ask you to pause your questions until after the levy conversation? Because if I don't answer them, then I think I'll answer them, and
Okay, we'll operate
we're
that
out of order for me to answer them now. Thank you.
All right, so moving on, you're good, done? Moving on to business, deconsolidation. Do we have any more comments on that?
In your packet, you have the deconsolidation timeline. So upcoming for the December, so I'm giving you the highlights of things that decisions we need to get made in September. I misspoke. Clearwater Valley, we're going to have to identify where their district office will be in the Clearwater in the month of September. That's a decision you'll make at your board meeting. An EIN number is for us for banking and that's a paperwork, a lot of hoops to jump, and so we'll begin that process in September, but we can't begin that until we have an address, a physical address for the district office at CV. I will come to the September board meeting with some recommendations for you. And then also in September, we'll have another series of the policies for you to look at. I have the 2000s ready for you, and they will be emailed to you within the next week or so that you can have a full month to look at those. I'm trying to give you, it's a lot of reading, so I want to give you as much time as I can. And then, this is the rest of the deconsolidation timeline, and if you have questions or there are things that aren't on there that you believe we need to get on there, let me know when you think of them so that we can get them on there and get a date for those, so that we can get that. Again, the goal, the whole reason, and boy, it's interesting to me how many people don't understand this. The election happened last May, and for some reason, a lot of patrons think that we had two different districts, just like that magic, it happened the next day. But that deconsolidation plan, the deconsolidation itself doesn't happen until July 1st of 2026. And there was a reason for that, because there's a lot to do, such as building line item budgets, which is required by law in the spring of the year for each of the districts, identifying the staffing. So it is a process. It will take all year, and we just chew it a month at a time. We try to get this into our bite-sized pieces. So this is your deconsolidation calendar. It will be in this board packet for public to look at when it's posted.
Madam Superintendent, simply because I'm on the end of the line, can you move that nice green glowing microphone closer to you so we can hear you better?
Yes.
Because they're gonna be giving us a lot of
That doesn't
information.
project, that just records.
But I think he can broadcast it.
It will pick, are you
We just
picking me
did-
up?
We just did the same thing for the comptroller.
I will bring an amplifier next time.
Okay.
I think,
It's just hard to hear because of the acoustics, if nothing else.
I know, I apologize. I'll try to use my gym voice.
Well, that's up to him. What do we want to use? I don't care.
we could use that right now.
We just need to hear what you've got to say. It might save a lot of
I have a
questions.
lot to say, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab.
Sorry.
I always have a lot to say.
All right.
That's good.
oh, you want me to use the mic?
Go away. Let's see how far we can get with it.
Sorry, Tracy.
No, you're fine. That might work for her.
I thought you wanted that.
Am I on?
I think we're making it. It's about as much like over here.
I'm in.
Right behind you, Larry.
Yeah, we got enough cord for that.
And I can plug the sound in over there. Let's do it.
The speaker.
Yeah, let's bring the speaker and we'll just have her directions.
Be careful of,
Yeah, don't trip. We just did start doing this up until
And just flip the switch
3
on.
months ago. We were recording, but we didn't
All
have.
right, how's that? Is that better?
yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Gosh, I always think I have such a loud voice, and I guess apparently I don't. So just recap that we do have, the deconsolidation doesn't happen until July 1 of 2026. And so the election happened in May, but is an entire year of this process. And we're trying to make it go slow to be correct and accurate. Yes, there will be a line item budget. That line item budget is required in the June meeting. Some things that make us wait till June is we have to wait. And I know this is going to make you crazy when we start talking about levy. We have to, for those exact numbers, to be able to have an exact budget, we have to wait for the legislature to do their work that they do, and we have to know exactly what a support unit is. Now, having said that, we won't have those numbers by the filing deadline for the May election. We will have those numbers for the June for the June budget, but we would not, I believe the filing deadline is early April. We won't have those numbers in early April. So regardless, a levy has to be based on your best understanding of history and research. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in the levy presentation. Which is next?
Which is next anyway.
It's next. Okay, now I have to grab that thing. 4 wires over
Would you, are you gonna do, you wanna do a presentation and then?
I do have a
then we'll
PowerPoint presentation, but this comes. I tested this, I just didn't test the microphone.
Yeah. Literally.
Okay. Okay, levy presentation. Really tonight we have 3 questions. The first question is, should we ask for a levy in November, yes or no? The second question is, how would the levy be spent? That's a funny question. The reason it's phrased that way. I am precluded from saying, I cannot by law say something like, if the levy fails, we're going to cut this, this, and this. That's considered to be a threat. And so I have to be very careful about my wording. I think it's semantics. I have to be careful about my wording to say, we're going to use the levy to support. So that's why that question says, how would the levy be spent? And then, should we plan for a 1-year or a 2-year levy? So that's the 3 questions that we have. And you need some background information. A lot of background information can be found in that final deconsolidation plan that's found on our website under the trustees form. And so it's a long document. Read through it. If you have questions, give me a call. But I want to review, lots of words on that page, I apologize for that. Some of my professors in college would have said, Anyway, I want to review our reasons for the deconsolidation. And remember that Thomas Jefferson said, a government closest to the people governs best. And so there was the whole discussion about, we touch Oregon and we touch Montana, and we are so spread out that it's really hard to have a true voice of our people. Also, Idaho has lots of small districts that are functioning well and have a lot of pride in their district. Various groups have been discussing deconsolidation since the deconsolidation with Riggins in 2006. It's not a new concept. The levy election results for the past 10 years show that there's different needs in different communities and different opinions in different communities. And it's difficult for these diverse communities to secure funding when they have when their geographic area is so spread out and their needs and their desires are so different. And then finally, the smaller district provides additional level of local control. There's a lot of talk about, I'll vote yes for a levy when that money stays in my community. So when you have a smaller district, the money stays closer to home and it's spent in the manner that the local people want it to be spent. So how is the district divided? Okay, this too is in, all of this is in that plan. It's in there. So the decision was made for the most part. The biggest part of the decision is based on, this will be included in that link, by the way, when we get it up in a few days. Most of the decision was based on enrollment. Enrollment in the district 244, these are all upside down because I'm now working 2 districts instead of the deconsolidation. At the time of the report that it was approved, it was 1,044 students. That is reflective of 297 students at CB and 747 at Grangeville School District, which ends up being a 28-72% split. So you'll often hear me say, well, 28% or 72%. And one of the things I saw on social media or somewhere is like, well, if there's going to be a levy and Grangeville's smaller, shouldn't it be a smaller amount of money? Absolutely. The amount of money request should be 72% of whatever the ask is. And in Grangeville should be reduced. I mean, excuse me, Clearwater Valley should be about 28%. Levies. Our current levy was passed in May of 24. It expires on June 30th, 2026. It does not continue on. This is the analogy that popped into my head as I was driving to work today. If you have a child who gets a weekly allowance, maybe during the fair, you want them to have a little extra $1 or $2 to buy a scone or a hamburger. And so for the week of the fair, you increase their allowance. But then when the fair is over, their allowance goes right back to where it was. That's how a levy works. The voters were asked and the patrons voted to say, yes, from July 1st of 24 to June 30th of 26, we will pay an additional amount of money into a levy that the school can use in the manner that they have outlined. So again, it supports the 24-25, it supports last year's school year and the school year that we're currently in, the final year of Mountain View School District. It does not continue from that. After that is a decision that we have to be talking about today and the voters will make. Election dates. There are 2 in Idaho, only 2 where schools can ask for elections. There used to be 4. There are only 2. One of those election dates is in November. The other election date is in May. We have to submit anything to be on the November ballot has to be submitted to the clerk by April 29th, excuse me, April, I'm lost in time. August 29th, that's this next Friday. So even though the election's in November, you have to know this many weeks in advance. And in May, we'll have to know by April, early April, to get that to the county clerk. Okay, so what happens? There's pros and cons for both. To have 2 opportunities for the voters to vote, and in November, it means we have less information. And we have to rely on history to do that. And we do have a lot of history, and that's where, when I said I've been studying levy information, I've been studying a lot of history in Mountain View School District and across the state. And at the last workshop, I said, if you look across the state, the levy is about 20% of your operating budget. In almost every district, it's about 20%. So the next question is, so that was all background information. The first question is, should we ask for a levy in November? This is what the last levy supported. In staffing, it supported $1 million in staffing. Clearwater Valley High School was on that levy at $614,000. Extracurricular and co-curricular was on that levy at $350,000. District land and property, there was a discussion of selling that property. That was $300,000. And standing operation expenses, $267,000. These were all things that they were not going to have money on, so they couldn't purchase. This is how the levy was spent. I have to say that carefully. Academic curriculum and technology, $115,000. All-day kindergarten, $110,000. Elementary library, $76,000. Elk City School, $70,000. Custodial supplies, $15,000, and student busing, $8,000. That is the last levy. And so if we look at that last levy and we look at our property values, now in that deconsolidation, we didn't divide the property value 28% to Clearwater Valley Elementary, or Clearwater Valley School District, and 72% to Grangeville School District. The property tax values were actually split 43% and 56%. So the property value of the Clearwater Valley School District is much higher than it was than 28% of the district, and Grangeville's is less than 72% of the district. So if we were to run the exact same levy again, charging Clearwater Valley 28% and Grangeville 72%, Clearwater Valley would be paying $1.18 per thousand, and Grangeville would be paying $2.28 per thousand. That's for the exact same levy if we were to run that. That's not my proposal. So the districts will be different, but the need did not change. While the state did increase the allocation for personnel, they also set minimum pay levels for all of those, for our staff. So it used up that money. Yes, they increased it, but there's a minimum pay that we have to meet. Staff to student ratios are different in smaller schools. One teacher for 25 students is cheaper than one teacher for 12 or 13, but when you only have 12 or 13 in a grade, that's what you have to have. Extra and co-curricular programs are not funded by the state at all. Discretionary funds did not increase in the state of Idaho. That's the cost of operation. That's paying our fuel, paying our electricity, all of those kinds of things. Mountain View School District has traditionally supported libraries in the elementary schools. I believe that's still true. Mountain View School District has had all-day kindergarten. Mountain View School District takes pride in maintaining school buildings with safe and clean learning environments. I'm going to shout out again, when the districts were evaluated, we were in the 80s. Most school districts in Idaho were in the 40s on the evaluation scale, on the percentage ranking of our maintenance in our buildings. And our curriculum and technology, we want our curriculum and our technology to stay current so that we can produce students that are ready for the 21st century. So now we look at staffing. This is the Mountain View staffing. Total staff 167. Of that, 74 are currently teachers. 69 are paid for by the state. 69 of those 74 teachers are paid for by the state. There are 5 administrators, and there are 88 classified. A classified staff is a paraprofessional, a secretary, bus driver, maintenance, custodial. That's the picture for the entire district. My proposal is that Clearwater Valley have a total of 61 staff. Of those, 23 would be teachers. This, by the way, is in this packet that I haven't handed out. I was going to tell the oh, goodness. That one. Okay. Sorry, trustees. I saw somebody taking notes and realized I had this in a PowerPoint for you. So back to Clearwater Valley, there are 61 staff. I proposed 61 staff members, 23 of those being teachers, 3 administrators, and 35 classified, which is paraprofessionals, secretaries, bus drivers, and maintenance custodial. Grangeville, there will be 105.25. We're going to cut a person up and have a quarter of a person. That's a part-time person. Of that, 49 will be teachers, 3 will be administrators, and 53.25 will be classified staff. Classified, again, paraprofessionals, secretaries, and bus drivers. So an overall comparison of that, Mountain View School District is that top line, 74, 5, 88, and for a total of 167. 28% of that, now this is finding just 28%. 20.72 for CV, 1.54 on administrators, 24.64 for classified, for a total of 46.76. And then the 72 for Grangeville would be 53, 3.6, 63.36 for a total of 120. That is what the top is 28%, 72% of what we currently have. The bottom of that is my recommendation for staffing for those 2 districts. You will see that Clearwater Valley School District would have about 3 more teachers than what the state would pay for. You will see that they would have 1.6 more administrators than the school would pay, than the state pays for. And how many is that? About 9 more classified staff. That's more. Why is that happening? Well, you still have the same number of miles that those buses have to travel, so we still need 7 bus drivers. You still have to offer all those English classes, math classes, whatever. You still have to have a kindergarten, a first, a second. And so some of those classes won't have 25 in them, which is what the state uses for a support unit. That causes us, and that's like economy in numbers. Everybody understands economy in numbers, right? The bigger the number, the more efficiently you can do the work. In a smaller school, you have to have more staff. So that's why that recommendation isn't quite what that 28% is. Grangeville School District would be actually under what the 72% is. 49 certified staff, 3 administrators, and 53.25 for 105.25 total staff. What would the levy support? What would we use that levy to pay for? Here's my recommendation. My recommendation is that Clearwater Valley run a levy for $811,989.29. That is $1.15 per thousand, down from the $1.80 that voters in the Clearwater Valley District are currently paying. My recommendation for Grangeville is that we run a levy for $1,655,622.30, which is $1.80 per thousand. And that is what we are currently paying in the Mountain View School District. So it would keep, for the Grangeville District, their rate would stay the same. And for the Clearwater Valley District, it would go down. The breakdown of that for Clearwater Valley, that is $382,940 in staffing. That is teachers, paraprofessionals, and administrators. Remember how I said that we're over a little bit in CV? That we would have to make some pretty serious cuts to do that. Extracurricular and co-curricular, $98,000. That was just like the last levy. Standard operating expenses, $75,000. Academic curriculum and technology, $34,200. All-day kindergarten, $30,800. Elementary library, $41,280. Custodial expenses, $4,200, and then secure rural schools is that fund that we get from the federal government and that we have used as a cushion, and I'm proposing that we spend $145,000 from that fund. When the levy failed, they took all of it out of secure rural schools. Secure rural schools didn't get funded again by the federal government, although I'm hoping that when they meet again this fall that they will take it up. I think that Senator Crapo alluded to the fact that he was confident it would too, but we don't know, and we won't know for a while. But that is our cushion that we can draw from. Grangeville, staffing would pay for $727,000 in staffing, $252,000 in extracurricular and co-curricular, standard operating expenses of $192,240. Academic curriculum and technology, $82,800. All-day kindergarten, $79,200. Elementary library, $38,250. Custodial supplies, $10,800. And secure rural schools, to take from that, $272,772. How did I get to these numbers? I used 28 and 72% of the fund 420. 420 is the student occupied buildings fund that we had to maintain for things like roof replacements, floor replacements, painting jobs, more major facility use. We now have the facility funds. The state of Idaho decided that they want to fund facilities separately. And they gave us that money, which, by the way, has been tracked since the day it entered the district and is separated out. Any work we do in the Clearwater Valleys or Elk City schools, we track. And any work that we do in the Grangeville schools, we track, so that we're not using that fund disproportionately in either community. And then, again, 28 and 72% of Fund 435, which is another school district facilities fund. Those funds sat there as a savings account, and we needed them prior to the state changing in the way that they are funding facilities. And so I feel comfortable taking from those accounts. And then finally, I used a 72% of the carryover from the 24-25 school year. Remember, we talked at the last workshop meeting about we did a phenomenal job last year. Our belts were as tight as they could possibly be. And then the state of Idaho gave us a couple of allocations extra that we weren't expecting. Sometimes when they're running on estimates, remember I said that at the beginning of the year, the state estimates how much money they're going to have to give us, and then they give it to us in portions. Sometimes their estimates come in a little higher than they think, and then they pass that on to us. And then we also had a couple of positions that didn't get filled last year, both in Clearwater Valley and in Grangeville, and so that was a savings. It's a one-time saving, and so I'm putting that into this to use as a one-time to reduce that levy amount. By the way, I took all three of those funds and divided them by 2 to get to that number so that you could look at this number for a 2-year levy. So again, my recommendation is $811,000 for $1.15 per thousand for the Clearwater Valley schools, and $1,655,622 at $1.80 for the Grangeville schools. And finally, should we plan for a 1-year or a 2-year levy? If you say no, it might be because we don't know how deconsolidation will impact the 2 schools. That's a fact. We don't. Do we have a pretty good idea? Absolutely. Because for many, many, many years, this district has run as 2 schools. We have 2 different transportation departments, for instance. So there's a lot we already have a good sense of what's going to happen in the 2 districts. If you say no, it might be because the new districts will be locked into that budget for 2 years, and that is something you need to think about. Are we ready to take a 2-year gamble, or do we want to stick with a 1-year gamble? If you say yes, it could be because you think that a 2-year levy brought financial stability to the district. We had a whole year of not talking about levies, and I'm going to tell you it was nice. And a 2-year levy will give the new superintendents time to get their feet under them. You will have 2 new superintendents next year. I absolutely will not be back. It's okay, hold the applause. I won't be back. So you will have 2 new districts, and you'll have 2 new superintendents, and they will need a year, and you don't want new superintendents to be thinking about trying to figure out how to get a levy passed. So again, here's my recommendation. I think we go for 2 years. I am confident that Clearwater Valley can do it on $811,989. I'm confident that they can do that staffing that I referred to earlier at that rate. And I'm confident that Grangeville can do it with $1,655,622. They say the best way to repeat your mistakes is to not know your history. History is what is driving this number. Are there still things out there that are unknowns? Absolutely. But I assure you, you won't know the numbers when you have to have the decision for the May election either. That will come later in the year. We have to rely on our history. You do that in your own budgets. You look back at how last year went to drive your next year. And so this is based on that. I'll stand for questions from the board. I'll sit.
You sound like you're behind me, but you're over here. Could you help me with a little better, or not, with an explanation of extra and co-curricular? That co-curricular part seems to be a relatively new word entering this conversation.
Co-curricular is like varsity blue, the choir that goes, drama, BPA, all of those extra things that are not athletic. They are supported, like HOSA, supported by a class that's in the school.
So it's right to think about them as being not athletic.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Outside of school hours, not athletic.
So how does that interrelate then with extracurricular?
Extracurricular are outside of you don't have to take a class to be involved in it. So like to be in HOSA, you're taking the CNA class or a health occupations class, something like that. And and then your HOSA, that's co-curricular. It goes along with the curriculum that you're taking during the day. Extracurriculars outside. We don't have basketball classes or football, volleyball.
All right. Getting back to the subject of kindergarten. I know there's some discussion, if somebody would have asked me just straight up out of the blue without any mental preparation, I would probably said, I thought we reduced to half-day, to, basically kindergarten is in half-day segments, is how I visualize it on the budget. That's why we have to put it in here in order to get the all-day, is because we have to pay for the other half.
Right,
That's
exactly. The state of Idaho funds kindergarten on a 1:50
Okay.
ratio, so that really means half a day.
Okay.
They pay for half of a day of kindergarten. So we use our district, that's a local decision to use funds to make it a full day of kindergarten.
I haven't heard, so I'm asking, because the grandkids that I have that are going to gyms are years away from kindergarten, so I'm not involved in that from a personal level. But what kind of, I mean, I'm sorry to say, I'm not one of them because I don't talk like this, but there's a lot of people that says the kindergarten is just babysitting. Because, I know, I get it. I'm just telling you that that it's a concern, because I wish, this is an example of why I'm hesitant to want to vote for a levy at this time, because I think we need some discussion out in the community about, in the detail, what are these things, and how do we, how do they interplay with the objective, which is to educate, okay? And that's not clear to me on the, you know, if we think that the state legislature is all-knowing and all-seeing, and what they recommend, i.e. what they fund, is half-day, then why are we finding it necessary to do full day, I guess is my question.
Can I ask that, I believe last time when we went through all this, busing was a concern on half-days, right?
Yes, so when you do a half day of school, you gotta figure out a way in the middle of the day to run kids home. And so we're running about around when you do half days. Some school districts do it every other day to handle the busing situation, but then you're running into, every other day, the kids don't have daycare, or they're only in school, and then a half day they're out, and there's that learning loss, there's a short-term learning loss. There's pretty strong feelings about kindergarten. Some people really believe in all-day kindergarten. Some people don't believe in all-day kindergarten. I will tell you, the kindergarten is not the beast that kindergarten was. When I went to kindergarten, we learned how to answer the phone and how to play nice in the sandbox. Now at the end of kindergarten, you know all of your letters and letter sounds. You are reading ready, if not reading already, at the end of kindergarten. So it is different. And then there is also, we had larger families were together more, they weren't as disconnected by electronics as they are now, and so we have kids who are coming to kindergarten without a language because they're not verbally interacting, and so increasing that opportunity to be in a language-rich environment is very important as well.
Well, when I look at the figure of $350,000, that's closer to $500,000 than it is to a quarter, and I'm saying this, I'm using this as an example, beyond the explanation of what it is. This is an example of why we shouldn't be rushed to make a decision about a levy, because when people look at that, if they have a preconceived notion about what it is or what it isn't, whether it's wrong or right, that's an educational thing for the public that's been mentioned a couple of times around. So I'm just bringing that up as saying these are some things that appear to me, from my perspective, and the people that are, you know, involved in it at a different level. It's been my experience, both personally and since being on this board for almost 4 years, that people tend to know most about the grades and the system for the kids' grade that their kids are in, right? And that's fair, that's how it should be. But this is a whole picture perspective, so it's hard.
So Trustee Dunn, what you are doing effectively by saying, let's put a levy on the ballot, is you're opening the conversation. And then from the minute you say, let's put the election on the ballot in November, you now have a window of time that you get to open the door to educate the electorate in what that's going to support. That's when those conversations of what's kindergarten for, why do we have it, why do we want it all day? You are starting, by putting it on the ballot, we talked about this a lot with the levy, with the deconsolidation. Putting it on the ballot gave the people a voice. It allowed them to vote and decide whether they wanted to deconsolidate or not. When you approve a levy and it goes on the ballot, you're opening the timeline for the discussion. And then you all have meetings, I have meetings, we welcome those conversations and we educate and remember, I only can educate, I can't advocate for that levy. And so I go to workshops, I attend meetings, I just make myself as available as possible to the public to answer all of those questions. And then the people who are making the decision are the voters in November.
Well, I would, with all due respect, I would disagree with the perspective. I think it's part of the responsibility of this panel here to have sufficient, I recall back before the 2-year levy that we spent, what was it, four meetings, and I believe it was at my request that we have these very detailed budget, I call them hearings, frankly, I think it's a better word for it, where people were heard and we had an interchange. And I think that went a long way toward people feeling more solid about what is this thing, this levy, and do we want it or don't we want it. I think they came away with a lot better perspective. Like it or not like it, you're always going to have that portion that are going to vote for a levy no matter what. They don't even want to hear any information. And then you're going to have some at the other end. I don't know if it's an equal 20-20 and then we got 60 and I don't know how that all breaks out. I don't care.
I would agree with you 100%. I'm sorry, I just interrupted.
Well, my point is that the time to work out, that's why I brought up the amount of this money. $350,000 at my current rate of and I'm not trying to be sympathetic here, but at my rate of income, $350,000 is 7 years worth of income. So that's a big piece of money for me when I look at that. And I am not unusual in that. I'm one of these on a pension Social Security guys, fixed income. And so I will say that I'm a little more sensitive to that, but I also have 16 grandkids who are in the system. So, I'm just saying, I try and think about these things from a perspective that makes me a good representative here. I think we're rushing things. May I make one more comment? And then, just so you know, I want to apologize personally, not reflecting on anybody here, because I think we missed an opportunity. In May, when the deconsolidation passed, okay, which frankly I was glad that it did. I think it's going to be great for the two communities. When it passed, we knew this question of the levy in November was going to come up. We knew it. It's on the calendar. It was, the Secretary of State publishes the calendar every year. We sort of started talking about some of the issues that are being raised now. Now we're under pressure. Okay, and it's rarely a good idea to make decisions of this magnitude, especially under pressure. That's my point.
We didn't have a board until July.
But we could have started things like, I brought it up at the last meeting, these people from Open brought it up about outsourcing. Just the opportunity to look at those things takes time. We don't have time is my major issue. We don't have time anymore because we started kind of late.
We didn't have
That's
the two
all.
separate, we didn't have the two separate
We didn't need to have two
boards
separate
to-
boards. We could have still looked at it because,
And
excuse me
when
for
you're
interrupting.
done, I'm gonna.
Well, excuse me for interrupting, but I don't object, you're using the deconsolidation plan as the basis for your number breakout here. We had all that, so we could have done it. We could have started, and I didn't think about it, nobody thought about it, so that's why I want to apologize, because we could have had some of these things settled. Would it make a meaningful difference to have outsourcing done for this or that? I mean, I saw Harlow driving 4 buses up 95. Who knows? But if we don't look, we won't know. That's my point.
Outsourcing, in my opinion, is not a levy conversation. Outsourcing is a constant running a fiscally tight ship, which is the responsibility, my responsibility as well as yours. Ideas come to us, we roll through those numbers, we look at them. Sometimes you can outsource in the middle of the year, sometimes you can't. Those are things that we should consistently be looking at. It is not the kind of a conversation that's going to make a difference. And thank you for bringing outsourcing up. I did look into outsourcing. I spent considerable amount of time looking at that, reached out to a couple of companies. Not really receptive to talking to me because I was from a school, by the way. I thought that was interesting. But what happens in a district is we put so many hats on every employee. And so for instance, our current human resources personnel, she does do payroll, so she collects all the time cards, she verifies those time cards are correct, she verifies that there's a substitute that's aligned to, and that the leave report is done. But that's not her only job. She also does all of the insurance and major changes for insurance. She tracks certification. She notifies the states of certification. She has so many hats on. Payroll is maybe 1/3 or to a quarter of her job. And so we did look at those kinds of things. We would, if we outsourced that portion of her job, we would also still have to have a clerk to do all of the other jobs. So those are things we should look at all year, not just at budget time.
Right, but I just, one more point, and I'll quit unless somebody has a question for me, is I disagree that it's not an issue related to the levy, because it is an issue regarding how much does it cost to run this district, and that's what the levy is about.
I would agree with that, but I would just caution that it would be an all-year conversation.
It should be, yeah.
I've got one question, or maybe just clarification. With the levy vote that we, gonna talk about here in a few minutes, it's my understanding that we as districts will be independent in that vote. In other words, Clearwater can vote independently of, Grangeville, et cetera. If we approve it, they may disapprove, and it can go then on the ballots in that way, and vice versa.
That's correct.
Just wanna make sure that's clear as we go forward.
Thank you, that's absolutely correct. This Clearwater Valley trustees will make the decision about whether you run it, when you run it, how long, the length of the duration. That starts the clock, it goes to the voters of your school district. Those zones are on our deconsolidation map, by the way, for you to see if you wanna see where you went. And Clearwater Valley makes a decision for Clearwater Valley, and then Grangeville makes a decision for Grangeville.
Okay. Now, if we pass a levy, we don't have to spend it all. And we can, and if the levy is passed, we can still make cuts along the way if we find places to cut, right? Maybe not, if you say kindergarten on the ballot, then we're gonna be locked into having kindergarten on the ballot, right?
Anything that's on that ballot.
It must, we have to fulfill that obligation there?
Yes, you're purchasing a full day of kindergarten if you have a levy.
Well, if we put it on the ballot, but
if we
say
put it
we
on the
didn't put it
ballot.
on the ballot, we use it to buy something else, whatever you say. Then we can have a discussion of whether we want kindergarten in our districts at all.
I'm not sure I'm following you.
So
Instead of putting kindergarten on the ballot,
Oh,
you put something else on the
like
ballot.
tables and chairs.
Tables and chairs, there we go. And then we could have that discussion of, do we want kindergarten or not? We can have that discussion.
yes.
What did Tracy say in place of kindergarten?
I just said tables and chairs.
Just a
Yeah.
random
Yeah,
something,
just a-
yeah.
Yeah. I just said so, yeah.
So I have,
I'm sorry,
We'll wait at the very end and.
I just
then
had a
we'll
thought,
address
right
it.
as you started to speak, and I apologize for that.
Here we go.
The numbers that you saw in my presentation are the numbers that 2 years ago you identified.
Exactly.
I used that ballot from 2 years ago to come up with those numbers.
Exactly.
so I have a lot of questions regarding how we are actually funded. And I don't know if this is the proper place to learn that, or if you can point me in the direction to learn that. Because all the questions I get that anyone's talked to me is, they want to understand what our budget is, where that money comes from, and what it's being spent on. So what is the state funding? How are they funding it? And what are we spending that is in excess of what the state is actually funding?
So you got a document, Tracy forwarded it to you from B. B had it, and then she forwarded it to you. It was actually the workshops, the budget workshops from last spring that Carly presented to you. And in that document, it outlines how the funding, it was the first of the two sets. It outlines how the funding is given to us, which is based on support units. Support units is, that number is derived by number of students, how many days, the percentage of attendance. So that they're enrolled, that number is part of it. What percent they're in attendance, so what, that 90% attendance that we talk about, that is part of it. And then there's also a number of minimum, staffing minimum that they use in that. So they use all of this formula, and it's in that in that program, or in that PowerPoint. And then that determines support units. And then the legislature in the spring says, a support unit this year is worth X number of dollars. And that number changes every year. That was budget in a teacup, and I'm gonna tell you, it's really a 20-gallon barrel.
So when they give you that number, or your support units, when they determine that number, do they just give us that money, or does that money have to be specifically spent on something specific?
There is all divided into, we call them silos. And so, for instance, when I talked about that they increased salary apportionment, the legislature was very proud of themselves that they increased money going to schools. They put it in salary apportionment, meaning money that we have to pay in salaries, and then salaries and benefits. So it was tied into that, and we can't spend it on anything else. The facilities money that they gave to us is tied into facilities, and it cannot be spent on any other option. So money in silos have to stay in those silos. And then if you go back to the budget that Connie went over earlier, that's also in your board packet. That is those line items and all of the funds that come to the district, and then how we expend those funds.
So, they said a teacher has to make this much money, right? So are they giving us only that much money, and let's say we're paying a teacher $70,000, but the state says we only have to pay a starting teacher $50,000. How are we coming up with that difference?
So salary apportionment is figured on your average teacher, and that is figured on how much education they have and their years of service. So for instance, right now, a disparity that I had to work into these numbers, the teachers that are in Grangeville have a tendency to be there a little bit longer, and the newer teachers in Clearwater Valley. So the money that they give us in salary apportionment for Clearwater Valley will be a little bit less than the money that they will give us for Grangeville. Not because they like Grangeville better than Kuski, but because teachers are more, I don't want to say the word more senior, but more senior just means they've been with the district longer. And so the number of years of experience that you have will change that number. And that's based on the average, so some people have more education and have been with the district longer than that average. Some have been with the district less time than that.
So the state is taking that into account when they're giving us money?
Yes. I really am noticing tonight I talk with my hands a lot.
Do it all the time. We're good? So, in light of that, I'll turn it over to you, Chair Minot, for levy discussion.
Item number 2.
Before you start, Chair Minot, in this process, you really have those three things that I alluded to at the beginning. Do you want to run a levy in November, yes or no?
Yeah.
How much should that levy be? Now the sub of that is this document that you have. And this is called the resolution. There should be one for Grangeville, one for Clearwater Valley, and I hope I just did I give you all Grangeville? I'm sorry. Okay, these are Clearwater Valleys. These are Grangevilles.
What did I just give you guys? Grangeville? Yeah, you just have a lot of them.
I have half of those. So make sure that you have the appropriate. Okay, so this resolution, so if you decide you want to run a levy in November, you have to work through this resolution. The yellow highlighted things are all of the decisions you have to make. And part of that is how will this levy be spent. There are numbers in there already based on my recommendation. That is only there to give us a starting point.
I have a question for the whole, before we start.
Yes, do you mind if I just finish?
Yeah, well, please,
and then finally, so you're deciding yes or no for November, how much and in what categories, and then should we plan for a 1-year or a 2-year levy? So that's what each of the 2 districts will have to decide tonight.
Actually, if I may, Madam Clerk, this is a question for you. You've done a really good job of training us. And I don't know that we've had a meeting where I haven't heard the following from you, and I appreciate it because I think you're right. And that is, if it's not on the levy, we can't talk about it, or we can't take action on it. This levy, this agenda, under item section E, number 1, man, I'm having my number problem. Bad night for that. Section E, items 2 and 3 say levy discussion. and
It's
levy
still-
discussion. It doesn't say levy decision or vote or anything. And I
But-
think technically that's an issue.
No,
Because,
no.
well,
The reason it's not is because it also says Section E, action items business at the very top.
all
It
right.
is an action item.
I just think, I think our language is not perhaps as clear as it might be, but I get your point. Just
Yep.
thought I'd bring it up.
Yep, it is an action item.
Okay, my turn? All right. Yep. Okay, guys, how do you feel about the levy or running a levy in November? You think-
Chairman Minot, can you please, say item 2 and what you're discussing for the audience, please?
Can I do what?
Read off of your agenda item 2 and what the item is, so the audience knows what you are discussing.
Okay, this
Thank
is
you.
discussion on 2026, 2027 levy discussion. Is this
Thank you.
correct? Okay. For Clearwater Valley, 45. So again, my question to this group, how do you feel about running a levy at this point? That's number one.
Well, like it was said before, if we run the levy and it doesn't pass this time, it gives us a second chance.
Right.
So, and there is always the chance that we can cut what we're funding as we go through the deconsolidation if we find waste or anything like that. Just because
That
we
would
get,
not necessarily affect the levy value, levy money per se. People would still be paying those taxes throughout that period, correct?
If you found a savings and you didn't need that amount of money, we would not get that. We would just, the county, we would give it back to the county and it would not, and it'd go back to the
So
taxpayers.
it could be returned to the taxpayers if we decide down the road.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the questions. Right.
So everyone I talk to says the same thing. If I understood what was going on here, I'd have no problem supporting a levy. Everyone I talked to said that, and I feel that same way. I don't have a problem supporting a levy as long as I know where that money's going. And right now, I don't, and I'm trying to dig into this stuff and learn all this stuff, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So I can't answer those questions right now.
Troy, you have any comments?
I feel like we need to do it now because we have decisions to make in hiring people and being able to be staffed in July. We can't just wait until, is it May? To make that decision and not know whether we can, I mean, how do we hire a superintendent and not know if we can pay him?
Well, that's another, certainly a big question. One of the concerns that I've got, and again, I've reached out to a bunch of people in the area that I know, and the answers I'm getting say, we don't know enough to run the levy. Just the numbers I've gotten, again, I haven't gotten a lot back, but I've gotten enough that at least I got a percentage of 75% of the voters here say, we don't know enough yet.
75% who you contact.
So 75% what?
75% of who you contact.
Well, yeah, 75% of the responses I got. Yeah, but again, that's, I'm wide open to whoever. Caitlin, I sent you an email.
I asked you to be on your contact list and I didn't
Right.
get your information.
I got an email from you.
I did not get your email.
Okay, all right.
So, it's like a catch-22, right? We don't have the information, or the public doesn't have the information, so how do we inform the public? But like you're saying, how do we know that we're gonna fund our school
Yeah,
without passing a levy?
tough question. We gotta make a decision if we're gonna do it in November.
Our decision is just whether or not to put it on the ballot.
Yes.
Right.
And then we have this window of time to try to answer those questions, right?
One of the, I checked with the voting district, and if we vote to put it on the ballot, it will be on the ballot in November, even if we would decide a month from now that we don't really want to do it after all. It'll still be there.
But you don't have to take it.
Well, it's possibly true. Yeah.
At least from a Clearwater Valley standpoint, I like the number better now than I did last year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A third
Absolutely.
less. So,
Don't disagree with that at all. I don't think anybody out here would disagree with that. Other comments, other thoughts?
I have a question for the superintendent. So with your proposal, we're overstaffed for Clearwater Valley School District from what the state will fund.
and that's due to low classroom numbers partially, right?
Yes, I think that, you know, for instance, to have all of the different courses that you need at the high school level, you have smaller classes. And that causes, you know, the state is figuring 1 per 25, and you have 12, 15 in a class, that causes you to be overstaffed. It's not because anybody wants to be overstaffed, it's just in order to provide the classes we need to provide, and not double up our elementaries, like putting 2 grades in one classroom. We're over what the state will provide for us.
Is that where the staffing is in elementary, or lack of staffing?
So all of the numbers K through 12 are added up and divided by 25 basically. So the overstaffing depends. And unfortunately in a school, when kids move in, they all move into the same grade, and when they move out, they all move out of the same grade, so your numbers are always whack.
Any other comments? Thoughts? Are you guys comfortable with running a levy in November? Troy, I think you are.
I think I am, just because I don't wanna be trying to figure it out in May, if we have to decide on hiring a superintendent or the other positions, we can't decide that in May and get.
No, we have to.
You're not gonna entice someone to come work here on the maybe you can pay them. So if we wanted to survive.
This is the trial year for getting everything going. And if we don't need the funds later, we'll figure it out. And maybe we can run a smaller one later, or in future years.
Okay. Your turn.
I mean, ultimately, the voters make the decision whether the levy even passes.
That's true. That's true.
Us putting it on the ballot, I don't know that it hurts. Because if people really feel one way or another, they're gonna go out and vote. I mean, that's the way for them to be heard. If it fails in November, we'll know we better figure something out, because
That's true too.
just because they fail, it doesn't mean we're gonna ask again and hope that we educate them better and say, we're still guessing this, but we still need this.
Okay, then let me ask another question too, and it relates, if we were to, the 4 of us at this point, vote right now, would you prefer a 1-year or a 2-year levy?
I gotta go back to, I like that $1.15 per thousand.
Yeah.
I get it, the stability, we talked about the stability of the district.
Yeah.
Running it for
Again,
2 years, I
it
understand.
takes a lot of the, concern off to have it run a longer period. No question about that.
Well, what was discussed before is it allows you to focus on other things.
True.
With a longer levy, because you're not worrying about passing another levy. We're trying to figure that out.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
we're guessing 1 year, we're extra guessing 2 years.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're
But
gonna be,
again, those numbers could always be adjusted down. If we figure out a way to save money, we can adjust that
and that's a possibility too.
down.
But again, we've got a lot to do and a lot to get our arms around. And unfortunately, we're having to make a decision here before we haven't even begun to get our arms around the whole thing. That's just unfortunate. But we gotta make a decision that's gonna work best for the school and the people out here, the people that are paying it. Do we present it to them, or do we say, no, we're gonna fight this through the school first, or, good question.
I think we have a better chance of getting the school set up the way it needs to be for the children if we have the funds available.
Okay.
And the stability that allows us to focus on other things going forward as we do separate.
Just, yeah, and I mentioned my effort to get some opinion from the people. I would say that 75% of my responses are against levies, but that's from someone decided in November. That's just, people that I know, and I got a lot of friends, I guess, that aren't very fond of levies, but we have to make a decision.
I think none of us are fond of taxes anyway, but
Okay.
a tax for the right reason.
I was gonna say the same thing. I don't support levies. You're voting yourself into taxes, and the problem is if the state's not funding us what we need, then we need to change the way we're funded, not make ourselves pass taxes on ourselves to support our schools.
And one of the arguments, and I've heard it from a number of folks too, is that the property tax for levies is a horrible way to do it, because you got an awful lot of people that don't own property that, just skate. But that is not something we can decide here, and it's gonna have to go through the legislature and so forth. We've gotta deal with what we gotta deal with.
So, I guess, do you want to call for a vote?
Well, I'm gonna talk to Ms. Superintendent. Should we vote here now ourselves?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it's your,
so we will vote
your
here.
agenda item.
So whoever makes the motion, you're going to say the amount and the duration. If the amount is different than what's on this resolution, we will need to make some adjustments. So my recommendation is what's on here, just because I needed to give you a starting spot. That's why it's highlighted in yellow.
Yeah.
So you're going to say, if you say something less than the $811,989.29, then we'll need to figure out where those adjustments are going to be, and then whether it's a 1 year or 2 year.
Well, there's another question then too. Do we want to go, if we vote, well, let's back up a second. Should we vote independently on whether or not to run the levy and then decide whether it's 1 year or 2 year? It has to be all at once.
No, your motion would be, I would
Run
run the
a certain
levy
amount
for so long at this amount,
That amount,
is what
okay.
your motion, you'd do one motion.
Then I would accept the motion from whoever is comfortable to make one.
Okay, so, let me be clear, you guys do not have to make a motion. If nobody says anything, there'll be no action taken and nothing happens.
Okay,
You do not have to make a motion.
okay,
And to be
Great.
clear, then the levy doesn't happen.
Levy doesn't happen.
great.
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens and we just go on.
I'll move we run the levy for 2 years for the $811,989.29.
That's all I need.
Okay, 1 year, 2 year?
You said 2 years?
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
And I got a vote too.
And what did you say?
Got a vote nay.
Okay, motion fails. Okay, motion failed. Thank you.
So Sorry, guys.
Moving on to Grangeville.
Yep.
Let's open up with discussion, I guess, rather than motion. Just go right into discussion.
So I think that,
You guys, we have to be quiet over here now because they are talking, I'm sorry.
Ms. Holthouse has done very well at giving us some historical information to come up with good numbers, to make a prediction for what we would need over the next
Oh,
year.
hold on. Are you wanting to make another motion?
I possibly.
Oh, well.
Okay, hold on.
So I didn't want to move on
Sorry,
from
I didn't
our
wanna take
tonight's topic if we can't come back to it.
Yes, okay.
Sorry,
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I am very, yeah.
you're in control still.
Okay. So, I voted no on the 2-year because I don't know that far out. I don't know now, but I'm not opposed to running a levy to, because I understand it, like, who's gonna wanna come work for a school district that doesn't know whether or not they can fund it? And that's my fear, is that, yeah, we don't know what we're budgeting for. I mean, we're looking at the history, but we're gonna be a brand new school district, we have no idea what's going on. We may need more money, we may need less, I don't know. So, I may be more inclined to say a 1-year levy versus doing the 2-year. So, I guess
Wanna make a motion?
You have to make a motion, and if that's what you so choose.
I'd make a motion to approve a 1-year levy for $811,989.29.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to run a 1-year levy for that, same amount. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it is passed.
You were in, you were A also?
Yeah, I'll go with
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Guess they'll tell us whether or not they want it.
It's,
You guys are good?
it's the best starting point.
Yeah, we'll go.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Now,
So-
back to you.
As I started to say, I want to thank Ms. Holthouse because I think she did a wonderful job at coming up with some numbers using the history of our Grangeville schools over the last several years. I feel like these numbers are accurate and reflective of what we would need. The proposal is to have the same per thousand cost at $1.80. I'd be comfortable going forward with that. The other thing that concerns me, like the other group had said, is if we don't pass it in November, then we worry about running it in May, and that presents a challenge. If it were to fail, we wouldn't know what our numbers would be like. Also, we wouldn't even have a 100% accurate estimate of what our district will need for this May election. So I'm comfortable with this monetary amount that we would be asking for the levy.
Not to be a stickler, but do we need a motion to continue the discussion?
Well, I said we'll discuss first before we make the motion.
I have no further comments.
Would you like to say anything?
I think the last 2 years have gone well, and our, people aren't as panicking, and I would like to see it go for another 2 years, because it's not gonna change that much. It's not, for each one of us to, what we have to pay.
I do agree that we need the stability. I just worry that we do have so many unknowns with forming a new district that it might be better received by the public if we live within our means and don't try to be greedy in any way and just do a 1-year levy right now.
I'm actually comfortable, just because last time we did this, we vetted it and vetted it and vetted it, and so I feel comfortable with the numbers historically.
For a 2-year?
And I would rather do a 2-year. That's where I would say. I think you can just operate on much more efficiently. If we do, even if we do this in May, this is gonna consume our whole year. We're not gonna, Like, there's things that we need to address that I feel this will overshadow it all. That's my opinion. Who knows how it plays out? But this is very consuming to the community, and there is a lot that will go on, and you can't predict it all, and I don't, if you could, and if we can still cut anyway, after we've been funded, I'm okay with that. If there's things that we know that we need to cut, I'm okay with cutting that. Oh, would you read that?
Oh,
I mean, this is B's, but,
I forgot.
well, I mean, I'll finish up, and then I'll have B. Edwards read them too, but if there's things that we can cut even after we're funded and not spend the money, I'm great with that. If we need to reorganize and do that after we've been funded, great. I'm okay with that. If we pass this levy, what kind of buffer will we have after? Like, as far as reserve funds?
We wouldn't be dipping into those reserve funds that the
So
auditor wants us to
We still have
We would
6 to
have-
8 weeks or whatever that is?
Yes,
So we'd have a little fudge room.
yes.
Okay. So I think it's,
That makes
the
sense.
community
as far
knows
as-
exactly what they're getting, because they've paid that same amount of tax for the last 2 years.
Yes.
So we would ask 2 more years of the exact same budget that would come out of each household, so that's very predictable. I like that. I like the stability, and I think we have a lot to tackle this next year. I would probably be for November. I'm okay with May as well, but I'd be okay with November, so we can move on to hopefully, important things.
Ready for these?
Yes, could you read these too?
B. Edwards sent a statement, I'm reading it just because I have the microphone. Sorry I can't make it, I wanted to share my thoughts on the levy tonight. Please share with the members of the board. After many years of deep diving into the financial world of Idaho education, and after a lot of consideration, I feel there is no way around running a levy in November. As stewards of the district, we have a responsibility to ensure the funding necessary to provide quality education for our students and maintain stable employment for a significant portion of our community. I would prefer to keep the levy rate as low as possible, ideally close to the current rate, without compromising academic integrity. A 2-year levy gives us flexibility to navigate this transitional period and assess our long-term needs more accurately. To sum it up, I believe we must run a 2-year levy in November to responsibly support student learning, protect jobs, and maintain quality without exceeding the current rate more than absolutely necessary.
At this point in time, it is only the amount, we're not gonna ear tag where those come from, or we have to ear tag that
Yeah.
on the ballot?
As was outlined in my, so again, they took my recommendation, so those are the things that I have in the PowerPoint. If you take my recommendation, that's what it would be. If you want to change it, you may, but we have to identify those changes.
Trustee Dunn, you're looking for cuts. Is there
No,
anything
no,
on
no,
here that you might
well,
want to?
That's one way to characterize it. I'm just not, as I think I demonstrated when we voted for the current levy 2 years ago, when I'm satisfied in my responsibility sitting here, when I'm satisfied that this makes the most sense, given what we have to work with, which we're limited, I get that. And I was just commenting to Ms. Greenback here that shame on the legislature for putting us in this kind of position. I mean, just straight up, okay? That makes me angry, that we should have to, keep having
Every
this.
time, yeah.
Okay? So that being said, what I'm not comfortable with is it feels, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, I've spoken to the superintendent, I've spoken to you, it feels like a bum's rush. And I would like to look at some more things, which gets back to my apologies. I'm not against running a levy. I stated in the last meeting, I like the concept of 2 years for the reasons you stated, absolutely. I'm not against running a levy and letting the people decide. I just think there's some factors that we flat out don't have the time to consider. And I I object, the only thing I object to is the fact that we're put in this position of having to make a decision, period. And so I'm not playing, and that's where I stand.
Okay. Any other comments? Well, then, would anybody like to entertain a motion?
I make a motion that we run a 2-year levy for $1,655,000, or $1,655,622.30.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Any further discussion?
Just how many years?
It was 2 year.
2 years, you need to state that.
I did.
Oh, I didn't hear you, sorry.
Motion and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Pass. All right. Approval of continuous improvement plan.
Oh, goodness. I always say I'd like to have my things in a binder, and some weeks I... So, let me pass first.
Thank you.
You have before you the continuous improvement plan. The continuous improvement plan is a requirement of the state of Idaho. It must be submitted to the state by October 1st. I give it to you to consider tonight. You can make a motion on it tonight. If you don't want to, you can move it to the September agenda, just as long as we have a finalization by October 1st. The continuous improvement plan, the first and second page, what you see there is data for the district, performance data for ISAT and IRI for the district. And then on the second page, we have, at the bottom there, we have the percentage of college and career ready advising programs. And then on the third page, it identifies our areas of growth and our areas of challenge, particularly identifies 6th and 8th grade ELA and math scores, and proficiency in IRI in grades 1 and 2 are areas for us to grow, and then strategies for addressing the change in our college and career ready. I think our schools made a great growth last year. Kudos to the 2 high school principals for actively reaching out to parents if their children don't complete college or go on to some form, to whatever it is that they go on to. And so they've really done a good job of reaching out, and I think that those scores will continue to increase as well.
Any comments?
I'll just say that I'd appreciate it if we could table this till next month so we can have the time to actually look at it. There's
That would be fine.
a ton of reading that we had to do. That's the list of policies we have to vote on this evening. I think we need a little time to at least be able to
This is no action?
have a cup of coffee and look at it.
Trustee Dunn, I apologize, I
No.
didn't get these out earlier.
Rumor is you've been busy, yeah.
So,
I get it.
is that a motion on the table to
Or can we
table
just take a
this?
no action?
I would probably just take it.
Oh, table,
Well,
it's fine.
He said make a take.
Motion to table it?
I would, yes.
We have a second? Second? Further discussion? All in favor of tabling this till next meeting?
Aye.
Aye? Great. Approval of surplus items.
So at Clearwater Valley High School, we have some track mats and their covers that have been in storage for a number of years. They're taking up space. They no longer meet the requirements for high school track for safety. And so the maintenance department has asked, can we surplus those out so that we can get them out of our sheds and have space? It's just a matter of cleaning up. I'm a big fan of getting rid of things we don't use.
Second?
By the way, any funds that we would receive from those sales, if they did sell, would go to the Clearwater Valley School because they're Clearwater Valley now.
Appropriately. All in favor? Aye. Good. Moving on to approval of policy, Series 1000.
So these will be a motion all in one. If we need to take one out or two, just please let me know.
Any corrections or
This is just
objections?
Clearwater.
Oh, this is Clearwater's. Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Sorry. I'm gonna turn that over to you, Chairman O. Sorry, I didn't.
So this is an entire series, this is the 1,000 series of the policies. You can make one motion to approve them all as written, or you can approve all of them with the exception of, and then identify the ones you have exception with.
Can we not go ahead and approve them all here now, but as we look at this a little more detailed, come back and remove one later on?
Absolutely. As we continue to work the process of developing the schools, you can identify a single project, a single policy and go back and amend it.
All right. So if this is just our decision again, how do you folks feel? Okay. Parents, good?
A lot of information there, so.
Okay.
Coming back later and being able to pick it apart makes sense.
Yep, I think so too. Okay, do we have a motion?
I will move that we approve policies series, can I just say series 1000?
Yes.
Okay, have a second. Troy seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Now moving on.
Now you can.
Approval of policy series 1000, Grangeville. Have a motion or?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt, I guess the language would be, Series 1000 policies as reflected on the agenda.
I second it.
Second. Is there any, just as a question, are these identical to the Clearwater?
Yes, we took Mountain View's current policies, we
That's what I figured.
removed the word Mountain View School District and put in Clearwater Valley and their number, did the same with Grangeville.
That's what I figured, but okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on. Informational items. Declaration of candidacy deadline.
So this is just a reminder that if you are going to choose to run for your position again, you must complete and submit your declaration of candidacy to the district office, is that correct?
No.
To the
Clerk's office.
court clerk, excuse me, thank you, to the court clerk prior to 5:00 p.m. on August 29th, which I believe is this coming Friday, a week from tomorrow.
Okay. And we all received a letter from Kathleen Bowen.
And then also the ISBA convention is coming up on November 12th through 14th in Coeur d'Alene. If any of the trustees want to attend that conference, the conference fees, travel to, and your motels are covered by the state of Idaho. They give a silo of money exactly for board training. And so if you want to attend that workshop on November 12th, 13th, and 14th in Coeur d'Alene, then you need to let Charity know you're interested in, and she would like the earliest possible because there's an early the fees go up if we don't notify them before about the middle of September.
The interesting thing is we don't know if we get reelected.
Right?
I believe this district had a trustee, it was 5 or 6 years ago that signed up and attended but was unelected.
Oh, really?
This district had that happen.
Gotcha. Oh, well.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing, just going back to the letter from Mrs. Bowen, I'll probably.
Would you like to read it?
Well, I would actually, if I could, I was wondering if as I discussed with the superintendent just yesterday, I think this was an excellent example of how to engage with the board in a constructive way. We all received the same letter by email, and I was just gonna simply ask if we could, ask Ms. Bowen to stand up so we could, give her a round of applause for raising the level of discussion, in this environment. So thank you.
Okay. Now, could you set a timer for 10 minutes for follow-up discussion? We can do that. Can't we? We can't discuss that.
I apologize, I didn't know you were planning on it.
Well, I mean, because I shut people down, I wanted to make,
It's in policy that we can do it. Yeah, I mean, we envisioned when last time you and I talked about it, I'm sorry. I'll back up. I use my hands too. Last time we talked about it, we wanted to combine public. comments and the potential of being able to discuss things, and we kind of went away from that tonight.
Yeah.
So I would like to give people an opportunity, if they would have a question or would like to talk about
Can they talk
something
about
related
anything
to this
on the
meeting,
agenda because of that?
I think we ought to do that. We didn't exactly follow policy.
Yeah,
Oh, we can,
legally cannot do that.
My understanding of public meeting law is that you would have to amend your agenda, and since the agenda has already been approved and the meeting has started, the only acceptable reason to amend an agenda during a meeting is catastrophic loss.
oh, okay.
But we could adjourn the meeting and stay seated and take questions, could we not?
You're still a quorum if you stay seated.
Well, I'm just saying, we didn't follow policy. And we specifically set up this policy and had some great discussion.
Yeah, that is
over doing
that's
that
my
very
bad.
thing, and we went right away from it.
And I apologize, I didn't catch, I misunderstood that that was the intent, and so, yes, we should have notified then
Right.
that we were
It was
providing
the
that.
chairman's idea to combine the two, if I remember.
I did, I was incorrect.
So just adjourn the meeting and you guys can go.
I absolutely am happy to stay and field any questions, so.
What's that? Actually, I'm sorry, we're talking right now, aren't we?
Yeah, we can't do that, so you need to.
I'm just saying, this gentleman had to wait for the meeting.
Yep, and I publicly apologize, but I'll talk to you afterwards.
So you need a
Do you
motion.
have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I need a motion to adjourn.
I was gonna try and get away with that. Move to adjourn.
I second it.
Second, all in favor of adjourning? Aye. Aye. Aye.